For step 4, you need to measure the elastic around the top of your hip, pull it a little bit, cut it where it meets, and then using a safety pin, take 1 centimeter of the elastic inside the safety pin and make sure it's backwards so that the end that doesn't open is going to pull it. Then slide the waistband of your boxers or pajama pants inside the ironing board, and you're going to pull the fabric over 4 centimeters. So you can measure that with the seam gauge, press it, pull the fabric, make sure your seams stay open and flat, and you can measure it either with the seam gauge or you can take your elastic that you've measured and cut, line it to the edge of the fabric and make sure you have at least 1 centimeter of fabric below the elastic. That way you know that once you sew it, the elastic will fit inside. So press the entire waistband under 4 centimeters and then bring it to your machine to sew. To sew step 4, the waistband, first I'm going to make the machine a free arm. I'll remove the extension table and then I'll slide the bottom of the fabric underneath and the top of the fabric under the foot so that I don't worry about sewing the waistband shut. And I put a pin at the middle of the back and then another pin about 4 centimeters away. I want to have a small opening about 4 centimeters wide afterwards to put the elastic in. So I'm going to line up the fabric against the edge of the silver. I'm not going to line it up against the 15 because if I sew on the 15 then I can't fit the elastic in. So line it up, put the foot down, put the needle down, and then take out that first pin. And I'm going to end up sewing really close to the serging, keeping the folded edge by the silver edge. I'm not going to reverse. This is one of the few times I'm not going to reverse at the beginning or the end. So allow the machine to pull the fabric and you to guide it, sewing close to the serging, keeping that edge against the silver. Go right through the seams and continue in this way until you get back to the second pin. So now I'm approaching the second pin that I put in, 4 centimeters away from the first pin. I'm going to slow down, stop and take that pin out, and then I'm going to lift the needle, lift the foot, and notice I did not reverse either at the beginning or the end, and then I'll cut those threads on the top and bottom, so there's 4 threads to cut. And then I take the elastic that I measured and put a safety pin in, and with the end that doesn't open, I slide that pin inside the hole. And now I need to work that elastic so that it will come out the other end. So I put my thumb behind the pin, and with my fingers I push the fabric over that pin, then I grab the top of it and pull. And I continue to do that, thumb behind the pin, fingers push the fabric over, pull, and each time I do, more of the elastic goes in. Every time you get to a seam, there's the potential for it to go underneath the seam. So if you start to push it through and it won't go, pull it back, open up that seam, and force that elastic through the opening. So continue until you get all the way around and come back out the same hole that you went in. Now that I've worked that elastic through, I'm going to remove the pin and I'm going to overlap the elastic just a few centimeters, put the pin back in because now you're going to need to try it on. So I'll pull that elastic so that it's inside the waistband, and at the same time I'm making sure it's not twisted anywhere because that would feel uncomfortable to wear. And then you'll flip your pants right side out and go try them on and make sure that that feels comfortable. It shouldn't be too tight, it shouldn't be too loose, and when you get it, adjust it to where you'd like it. Grab that elastic and yank it out. Remove that pin and put a straight pin in its place, and then take that elastic, put it under the presser foot, put the foot down, needle down, remove that pin, and then sew down the elastic, reverse back the elastic, and sew it down and reverse it back 8 to 10 times. You want to sew a lot of stitches so that when you're done, there's no way that elastic is going to come apart. So then cut your threads, trim the excess off the top of the elastic, the excess off the bottom, and then pull that elastic back inside the waistband. Check once again, making sure it's not twisted anywhere, and then take a straight pin and on the good side, pin that waistband down, slide it inside the free arm again, and at your original stitching line where you didn't reverse, line up the foot, line up the needle, and then start to sew, reverse back a few stitches, and pull the fabric tight, and you're going to line it back up to that other line where you sewed, reversing a few stitches once you get there. So then that opening that you left to put the elastic in should be securely sewn, reversed at both ends. And now you're ready for the last step. You're going to bring it to the steamer for step 5, the hem.